So, guys, I had to watch The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It twice before coming here to deliver my review to you today. Stay tuned to find out why and how I felt after the fact.
Lorraine?
So really quickly, before we start talking about The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, let's get into my history with the Conjuring universe, how I feel about it, how I felt about this film afterward, and kind of my expectations going into it. So starting from the beginning, The Conjuring was such a great horror flick. It was so well made. James Wan was really popping and hot at the time, and you just couldn't really go to the theater without seeing a good horror movie, unless it was a James Wan movie at that time. I'm sure a lot of you remember that era. I mean, there were exceptions, obviously, but Wan really knew what he was doing. I mean, with Insidious, Saw is obviously what got him big, and then moving into The Conjuring, it was a big deal because it was just like this guy couldn't miss when he was helming the horror film that he was doing, and I really fell in love with James Wan and his style. Now, obviously, James Wan's style was recognized by many big Hollywood studios because he did go on to direct Furious 7 or Aquaman, and just, is killing it when it comes down to that. It turns out that he did not want to direct this film, and that is a little bit upsetting on one end, but on the same hand, I was thinking, okay, let's see what Michael Chaves can do directing this one. And I honestly wasn't a fan of his other Conjuring universe film, La Llorona. I typically aren't a fan of the other spin-off films. I liked Annabelle Creation quite a bit. I thought that one was good, the one directed by David F. Sandberg. I recommend that film if you haven't seen it. But let's focus on The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Now, as I said in the beginning, I had to watch this film twice, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I struggled with this movie, and that is a lot of the reason I did watch it again, because I recognized that there were some highlights there. A lot of people brought that to my attention after talking to them. They kind of were looking at it from a different angle than I was, and so I wanted to go back and see if I can see what they were seeing. That was a tongue twister, but I went back, and I gotta say, on some level, I do. This film works as like a summertime blockbuster sort of shove popcorn down your throat horror film. It's great for that. If you wanted to go see that, you might have a really good time. For myself, and I'm gonna be completely honest here, I wanted Conjuring 1 and 2, not a repeat of the plot. And, you could still add some freshness here, which I want to throw out there. Chaves clearly wanted to make this film a little bit more fresh and a little bit more up his alley of style. But as cool as that is, I just still felt like I was watching something that just wasn't for me. So I'm going to get into some of the problems that I have when we're talking about Chaves versus James Wan. When James Wan was setting up the Warren family, played by the great Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, he decided to make the choice, very consciously, I believe, to make sure that the family that they were going to be helping was a family that we really cared about. And this film, Chaves decides not to allow us to really give a shit about this family. I mean, he didn't really give us too many reasons. There was a plot in the beginning that, to me, became somewhat irrelevant on the surface. And it just kind of showed the Warrens helping these people right from the get-go. And I felt like, wait a minute. When I was watching Conjuring 1 and 2, part of the charm of that is that the Warrens came in to it sort of after the fact. They weren't kind of heavy-handed to us like they were in this film. They seemed a little bit heavy-handed here, and what I mean by that is you know, I love the Warrens so much, so when you use them a little bit more sparingly, it's kind of like a prize when we get them, and it just felt so much more genuine when we got them in the prior films. Here, it just seemed like they wanted to do Warrens, and it just felt like it got played out pretty quick, and it kind of lost that luster that the first two films had. And not to mention, if we don't care about the family, we're not going to care about the Warrens' deeds helping the family, and that is part of, you know, the charm of the first two Conjuring films, in my opinion. And I was a little bit upset that this film decided to do away with that charm. And not to mention, we got to see them interact with the families or the people one-on-one a lot more in the past, and this film didn't have that either, in which case it also lost its charm. So the charm is almost what I was missing here. So it's kind of refreshing that for once I could say I did not enjoy a horror film, and the problem actually wasn't cinematography, because the film is shot actually beautifully. It's a really well shot film. The scares could be bland, they're kind of hit or miss, I will say that, but there are some good scares in here, so that is not the issue. The issue is actually the treatment, in my opinion, of the Warrens on one end. But on the other end, there's this problem of tone. The tone feels like it's all over the place. I don't know what that was, but it almost feels like this film did not get finished. It was interrupted by the pandemic, and the studio just decided to take what they got, or what they had, take it, stitch it together, and try to salvage a cohesive movie together. There were moments where it would like fade to black, and then when it came back to the next scene, it felt like we missed a whole lot of something, because it just felt empty, and then the tone would shift from scene to scene in so many different moments. So that was another upsetting thing. So I want to mention some of the highlights here too. I don't want to spend the whole time harping on this movie. It's not an absolute piece of crap. It's certainly not The Nun. It's not Annabelle. It's not Annabelle Comes Home. It's not La Llorona. Which again was also directed by Michael Chaves, and I'm sorry I can't say that properly for some reason. But this film is still not all that great, but there are highlights here that kind of boost it, and I would take it over most of those spin-offs outside of Annabelle Creation any day of the week. If you wanted me to choose between them, I would watch this one because there is still some fun to be had here. This movie has entertainment value. Again, like I said, if you're just looking for the popcorn flick, you can just shove popcorn down your face, down your throat, and you want to just have a good time. This movie, again, just does work on that level, but I feel like it doesn't work for much more, as opposed to, again, when Juan was doing it, it was so much more. You know, it was all the emotions, it was the epicness of everything that was going on. But again, I'll get back to the positives. So first thing I'll say without spoiling anything is that there is a scene at the end of this film that is absolutely heartwarming, touching, and it's a definite must see, maybe even just for that scene. I don't want to sit here and say this movie's like amazing, so it's a must see, but I really hope that when this movie does come out on home release, you can like YouTube that scene or something. And a lot of people are going to be talking about it. I'll just refer to it as the Gazebo Scene. A lot of people know what I'm talking about who have seen it, but if you don't, when it comes out on home release, and if you're not interested in seeing it, you know, just definitely check out the Gazebo Scene. That is absolutely heartwarming and touching, and everything I love about you know, the characters of The Conjuring, and that was a nice little touch. I enjoyed that little charm right there. Other thing I really liked was the time period and the aesthetic of that, and the way that they captured that was really, really solid. I mean, the costume design is great. It's on point. The feeling of it is on point, and it really takes itself out of its way to make sure that it feels like a summer horror flick. And I like that a lot because of the environment. It just feels like it's warm outside, and I really enjoy that. I feel like that's something that they kind of kept left over from the past two Conjuring films, is just that environmental sort of aesthetic that it tends to give. And I enjoyed that. So that was really, really nice. That was a nice little touch as well. Drew, the character of Drew, is back. I love seeing him. That was a big positive. He's a really fun character. I like his interactions with the Warrens. So I was happy to see that they just brought him back, and they couldn't do without him any longer, because he is a breath of fresh air in this movie for sure. I enjoy his character again. That first film just did a good job of making that character so dang likable. But again, the Warrens, unfortunately, are the main characters, and I kind of like them a little bit more at the side, so when we get them, it's kind of like a prize, you know what I mean? But either way, I like their interactions with Drew. Now, this will be a spoiler for the first two Conjuring films, not this one, but I do want to throw this out there. So, Lorraine Warren has a power, if you will, but it's a power that has been set up to take a lot out of her. It's not something that can just be pulled out at the drop of a dime. But in this film, they decided that it is. I do not enjoy that at all. I thought that was pretty careless. And it wasn't a very good way to treat that character. Just the fact that she could pull it out at the drop of a dime, and it felt like it had no consequences, just kind of took away the stakes a little bit for me, and I feel like they could have added some real stakes to that. But again, the scenes where she is kind of doing that thing, I mean, they're visually great. This movie is very visually good. I don't want to take that away. Again, I actually enjoyed a lot of the cinematography. I think Michael Chaves actually knows how to shoot a film, but I don't know that he actually understood what a Conjuring movie needed. That's the problem in terms of its tone, in terms of its pacing from time to time is a problem. And it just felt sloppy on that level. Again, I just don't care about some of these characters. They just didn't give me a reason to. And that's a problem, I mean, I was a little bit upset about what happened to one of the characters at the end. Not harping on the movie. If that's actually what happened, then I'm glad that they stuck with the true story of that. I was just like, so that kind of got me a little bit, and I enjoyed that. You guys who've seen the movie know what I'm talking about. Like, I enjoyed that it was like, okay, well, it wasn't all kind of, sunshine and daisies. There was some extra elements of dark in there, that was like, well, they're sticking with what really happened, so that's good as far as that character goes. But on the same hand, I just didn't care. I felt empty throughout the entire film because I didn't care about this mission that they were on or anything like that. It felt like it wasn't handled in a way that James Wan would have handled it, or maybe other directors could have handled it. I'm not trying to claim that James Wan is the only person that can do a Conjuring film, but he just seems to have this understanding of the Warrens that a lot of other people probably don't have, and an appreciation for them. And whether you think they're kooks in real life or not, James Wan makes them phenomenal, very endearing movie characters, and this film just kind of gave them a bland thing to do, I feel like. And I know that this is based on one of their cases, but it just really made me wonder why this one. Of all of them that they could choose from, why did they want to go with this one? Because this case is very bland and boring in comparison as well. And that's another problem I had again, but like I said, everybody, there's entertainment to be had here. I think the first act feels very sloppy. The second act is a little bit boring with some decent scares though, and then you get to the third act and it's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. It's kind of heightening the stakes a little bit. It's a little bit more epic, and again, because of that third act, this is a fun, probably very entertaining popcorn flick. If you just want to go into a horror movie this summer and just have some fun, you might like this movie. Again, this movie's not a total piece of garbage. There are admirable things about it for sure, and I definitely recommend it to watch, and you could form your own opinion. Again, I have talked to so many people today who disagree with me on this. They really love this movie. They seem to be high on it. I'm just not that person. This movie wasn't for me. This was not the Conjuring movie I would have personally enjoyed, but for other people it seems to be working. I'm sure people are glad to get back to the theater, eat some popcorn, and just have a good time, and I'm proud of them for that. If you wanted to go to the theater to watch this, but if you have HBO Max to be more specific, I mean, it is free to watch with your subscription right now. So maybe check it out that way if you didn't want to take the trip to the theater. I do think it's worth a watch for everybody though, because again, there's fun to be had in it. I just don't see myself watching this again. I got to be honest with you. I think this was completely forgettable for me, kind of like a fart in the wind, and I just don't see it happening again for myself. Guys, so for The Conjuring 3, put it on if there's nothing else to watch. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. If you can't find anything else to watch, yeah, maybe put this one on, form your own opinion. It's worth a shot. Again, you might like it. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to get out of here today. So please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section, share this with your friends, hit that bell for notifications. Once again, I have been Don Martino. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. And yeah, make sure you go check out our other shows, Movie Night, which airs on Monday nights at 11:30 p.m., and the Interax Entertainment Podcast hosted by myself. You can go check that out as well on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. and Saturdays at 5 p.m. as well, and it's also on Spotify, so make sure you go over there and check that out. Follow us, leave some comments, and that's much appreciated. So thank you guys for joining so much. Appreciate it a lot, and we'll see you guys next time. Good night. Later.